Losers of the NBA Draft 2016. Throw SpongeBob meme here. Got it. Cool. I can't wait to add that SpongeBob meme. It's my favorite meme. All right, the losers of the 2016 NBA Draft, and there were many. Oh, there were many. Is it too soon to title these guys losers and winners? Of course. We don't know which one of these guys can end up being like Steph Curry. We don't know which one of these guys can end up being huge busts, or they could be brilliant. Brilliant or busts. It's actually not a bad name.
That's what should be the name of the segment.
Brilliant or bust?
Busty or brilliant?
Busty or brilliant. All right, we're going to start with this one because I'm a Knicks fan and I'm wearing the Godzilla shirt. Live look at how the Knicks did in the 2016 NBA Draft. Graphic number 8. Go. There it is. Activity.
Wow.
None.
Blown away.
Oh, okay, now we move forward because that's out of the way. There was a lot of great Twitter reaction, but there was a huge loser in this draft, and my God, it goes by the name of the Orlando Magic. The Thunder got away with murder. They didn't want Serge Ibaka anymore. He didn't fit on that team over the last 2 years. He had moments of brilliance. He was helpful from the three-point line at times, but he was not the defender he used to be. As the system moved more towards the Westbrook and Durant, it faded away from when he was really effective before Donovan even came in. Even during Scotty Brooks' time, that curve started to go down. Magic acquire Serge Ibaka. Thunder acquire Victor Oladipo, Ersan Ilyasova, and draft rights to DeMarcus Sabonis. If Kevin Durant was thinking about leaving the Thunder, he should really, really consider staying for long term. Oladipo is a great two-way guard who adds scoring to that team, adds defensive prowess to that team, and is only getting better. What we saw last year, his career arc is going up. It's a mountain climber. I know it's not. That doesn't matter.
I was a huge fan of Serge Ibaka when I first started watching basketball. He was a monster. Like, he had so much potential, but
still could be.
Yeah, no. I'm talking about when I first started seeing him play, and I'm talking about potential in terms of delivering Oklahoma that championship, because we've seen him. I think he came up major in certain games against Miami Heat in previous finals. His defensive capabilities shone through. But then when you look at the finals this year, or not the finals, sorry, when OKC played at the West Finals when they played against Golden State, it takes a certain type of player to be able to guard someone like Steph or Clay. I didn't think Serge Ibaka had it, and I think that his biggest benefit to being on that roster was kind of eliminated at that point. And they needed someone else who was able to contribute more than just being a defensive stonewall. And I think that does come part and parcel of being an NBA player these days. It's like you cannot just be one-dimensional. You have to add so many different things to your game. And when you have, as you mentioned, someone like Ilyasova to go in and maybe work alongside someone like Steven Adams, who we see this year be, I would say, one of the best rising stars or whatever it has to be. He's not the youngest.
He's young. He's getting better.
But I think that Oklahoma are moving in the right direction. But, Jason, I wanted to pose you the question. This is something that I think Kevin Durant is obviously excited about, but this may take a couple of years more to build again. Like, this is something that, yes, they have the foundations there, but correct me if I am wrong, they've had the foundations for the last 5 years. They've had MVP-style players like James Harden who didn't fit in as well and move over to the Rockets.
That's what it reminds me of, a reverse James Harden trade, almost, in a way. Is they pick up Oladipo. I don't want to sell Ilyasova short. I don't want to sell Sabonis short. But Oladipo's an immediate impact player. The Rockets got an immediate impact player when they traded for James Harden. So Oladipo comes in, and all of a sudden, you know, Steven Adams is going to be, I think he's a dark horse for being one of the best big men next year. He really, really proved that. And you move someone like Roberson to the bench, who played his best basketball in the playoffs and towards the second half of the regular season. So that gives you a little bit more depth. A lot of people argue the Thunder were the best team in the playoffs last year. A lot of people argue that the Thunder would have smacked the Cavs in the finals. It's just what ifs. But now, they've been on the cusp. They've made the finals in 2012. They lost to the Heat. But they now are, once again, in the position, if they keep Durant, in my opinion, outright favorites to win the title. I think we need to pump the brakes on this loser. I think this could be, in about a month, the biggest loser, or still could be the biggest winner, right?
Interesting.
The Celtics. Done for the night at TYT Sports. And don't forget me tomorrow when you're talking about how Boston fans feel. #FireDannyAinge. That hashtag, though, too soon to call for that. We'll read on the show. Look at my tweets. It's been all night. I told them the consistency was nice to see. And I told them I'd read it on the show, and I did. There you go. But the Celtics fans are losing their mind because they drafted all these international guys. They drafted Jaylen Brown at 3. They also picked up Demetrius Jackson, who's a good guard from Notre Dame. Actually, probably one of the better second-round picks. They had all these picks, and they didn't do anything with them. They didn't trade these picks. They didn't draft Buddy Hield at the 3. Why would you, right? Here's the reasoning why I think it would have been dumb to draft Buddy Hield at the 3. Buddy Hield, like every single one of these prospects, has not proven a thing in the NBA, right? Free agency is coming up. You want scoring? Sign it in free agency. Why? You could, look, and on top of that, from Danny Ainge's perspective, when you get a trade sheet offer in front of you that says, we want your 3rd pick, we want 2 of your other picks, including another first rounder, Jay Crowder, Avery Bradley, and another one of your players, and in return we'll give you Jimmy Butler, you're a fucking moron to take that trade. Because you don't give up your whole team and all of your picks for one player. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Like, look, I get that the James Harden deal worked out in favor of that, but they would be giving up multiple starters. They'd be giving up multiple draft picks. And until we can't come down on Danny Ainge just yet, like I said, could be huge losers. But until we see what happens in free agency, I'm not a huge fan of DeMar DeRozan, but he can score and has proven that he can. There's a lot of fans of DeRozan out there. And if he gets hot, he can be a good scorer, right? Buddy Hield, for all we know, might be 3 years before he does that. Why would Celtics fans want to wait 3 years for a guy to develop into that when you're going to be past the prime of certain free agents that are going to be available tomorrow, actually technically July. So I don't want to call for Danny Ainge's head just yet. It could be. What's the point? You got all these picks. Who knows? Maybe those picks are interest to other teams. Those international players wanted to be drafted by other teams, so Ainge said, let's do it. Also, how can you get that mad at Danny Ainge? Brad Stevens, great hire. Isaiah Thomas, all-star point guard. Avery Bradley got injured. It's part of the reason they lost the first-round series. They have good players, and Jaylen Brown, again, lateral, could move quick on the defensive end of the floor, will fit into Brad Stevens' system right off the bat. Creative. That's Brad Stevens' type of player.
I agree with your points. I feel that Boston is a franchise that's rich in history. It's rich in success. That people want that fix.
They're winners.
Where I think that they're on a similar path. I'm not going to compare them to Minnesota or other teams like that, but they're on a similar path on their rebuilding process that they understand that it's going to take a little bit more time than Boston fans want because they're impatient, like most sports fans. But add Boston to that, and you get further impatient, especially with the success they see in American football and everything else. But I think that when it comes to someone like you mentioned, like Buddy Hield, people are calling out. I seen it on Twitter. People are calling out for Buddy Hield to come in. The one point I have, and I may be off base on this when it comes to college basketball, is that there's a lot of, I would say, talent that comes with players that you can bring over to the NBA. One of the hardest, I think, is if you're a significant scorer in college and you have to try, and that's your main asset, to carry over that scoring into the NBA is such a difficult thing to do with more defensive players, with bigger guys, with mature players, faster game. Correct. So where if you have certain things in your game like court vision, passing ability, defensive capabilities, that for me carries over way ahead of scoring when it comes to the NBA because you can add scoring to your game. There's people out there that are natural scorers, but Buddy Hield, by the way, I don't think can just score. He's got other things to his game, but scoring is outright one of his major draws when it comes to trying to get people to look at him as a potential talent. So I think the Celtics have people in there that can score. I don't think you need an immediate scorer, but I do think you need to add consistency to your team, and bringing in players that have more well-rounded capabilities is only going to strengthen you further rather than putting all of your eggs in a guy that could or could not blow up the NBA next season or potentially flop out because he can't score at the same magnitude.
All right, last loser because we've got to wrap up, the Sacramento Kings. DeMarcus Cousins tweets this, Lord, give me strength.
Jesus Christ.
So Boogie Cousins, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm in Boogie Cousins situations, I don't play. Mostly because what he's had to deal with in Sacramento is absurd. Rajon Rondo's a good point guard. We get that. But they still need so much help in the backcourt. So what do the Kings do? Well, last year they traded for Willie Cauley-Stein, so they bring in another big, because that's what they need, another big to play with DeMarcus Cousins, one of the best bigs in the NBA. And instead of signing a guard or drafting one, they draft another big man. So if I'm Boogie Cousins, I am sitting on my ass or I'm going to China, I'm playing with Kobe for a year, running away from the country, and then I will wait until the Spurs, Thunder, Heat, Celtics, Warriors give me a phone, Clippers, Lakers give me a phone call and say, hey, we won't sandbag you because you're a tremendous talent and you get a terrible rep in the NBA because your organization is made up of Donald Trumps, okay? That's what the Kings are.
And by the way, I deliberately did not read DeMarcus Cousins' tweet when I saw it on the rundown because I love the guy, and I was kind of bracing myself for maybe a backhanded insult to them, like, oh, could have done better or anything. Yeah, no, straightforward. Lord, give me strength. I would imagine being like, even if he does stay with Sacramento, imagine being the new drafts coming in, knowing that the best player on the team, the biggest, most aggressive man, is just not a fan of you coming in. He's just going to stare at you while you walk down the locker room like, we drafted you.
He's a free agent. I think he's unrestricted next season.
But it's just like, what?
I think he's going to leave California. I don't think he ever wants to come back. They're going to be like, hey, we got a road game against the Kings. He'd be like, I feel sick.
This is a guy that, again, suffers a similar Draymond effect because he's so passionate and he's so out there with his intentions when he's on the basketball court, where I think he's a fantastic basketball player, so it's interesting to see. And I thought Sacramento, when they have someone like DeMarcus Cousins and they bring in a Rajon Rondo, yes, no Rajon Rondo from the Celtics, but still a talent to work with. I'm thinking, all right, Sacramento Kings moving forward, and the organization's a mess.
It's the 76ers owner. Think he died for your sins. God, some fans are great. All right, comment below with the losers. And again, I have the Celtics as half losers, the Kings as super losers, and the Magic as the Batman versus Superman versus Giant losers.